have, of course, was not on trying to improve prosecution, but to try to look at the system itself, if there was any improvements that needed to be made, and to take a look at what was really causing crime, so to speak. So my job is really, really multifaceted. I concentrate a lot on youth projects, and the fact that our educational system has a lot to be desired, to say the least. So a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm either working on programs that are supplementing the academics that are insufficient in the school system here, or I am working on other vocational or spiritual things that need to be done to try to fill some of the gaps that exist in the city. One of the programs that we have is a curfew initiative, which Sean has also worked on. What we found years ago is we actually had an open forum here at Rutgers, and we invited anybody in the city to come. And we just gave them the mic and said to them, tell us what's wrong with the city. And this was about, I guess, about 6 years ago. And almost everybody that came up to the podium said the same exact thing, that we have a lot of young people in the city, that they're not engaged in the way they need to be, that they need more constructive things to do, that the school system is failing them, that their families have more or less sometimes also failed them, and that we needed to do something. So I thought, well, we're a law enforcement agency, what can we do to improve that? So I figured maybe what we could do is, instead of picking a kid up for a curfew violation and taking them to the police station or fining his parents, which ultimately doesn't end up doing much of anything. They're usually given a court appearance, they don't always show up. If they do show up, the fine is somewhere, you know, between $50 to $200, and it doesn't mean a whole lot. So instead of doing that, we actually brought the child in and started to talk to them. You know, what's going on in your life? Are you going to school? Are you engaged in extracurricular activities? Is there something that you want to be doing and you can't do for whatever reason? You want to play basketball, you want to run for student government, and you don't feel like you can win. Is there something that we can do? Do you need a mentor? Is there... So what we do is we speak to the child, and then we try to hook them up, so to speak, with different things that they could be doing. Not only social services, but is there something else that they could be doing? And one of the things that we do is we require the parent to come in, because we believe in really heightening the accountability of everybody. So we have the parent come in, we have the same conversation with them. It's dangerous to be outside late at night. We don't want to arrest your child, but instead we want to try to nip this in the bud, so to speak, before it gets worse. And we've had great successes. We've actually caught people right at the, you know, edge there, so to speak, when they were teetering on, you know, thinking about going and being a lookout at a drug set, and we've been successful at picking them up and talking to them and engaging them in ways that are meaningful. We have an anti-graffiti mural project. We're the co-founder of a soccer league. And like Sean was saying, a lot of my time right now is the facilitation of district council collaborative boards. A few years back, we had a panel of people that was convened by the Attorney General. And the Attorney General's office was thinking, why is Camden so dangerous? Is the police department doing everything it possibly can? Now, of course, one of the problems with that is, what can anybody think of? What is the problem with that question? Everything doesn't lie in the lap of the police department. There's so many other things that are obviously causing crime.
Once it gets to the police, it's already a big problem.
What people don't really think of is crime is the result. And so there's all these other things that need to be fixed first, and then if we were actually addressing those things in meaningful ways, we probably wouldn't have the crime that we have. Excuse me.
You want to take a pause?
Well, I didn't want everybody to. Yeah. We were just talking about the causes of crime and whether or not it should lie on the lap of law enforcement. So what we came up with this group of individuals that were policing experts from all over the world, as a matter of fact, is that we really needed to create some kind of a forum where the police department could sit down with the community, and the community meaning not just residents, but the community meaning universities, hospitals, faith-based organizations, businesses, anybody that has an investment in the improvement of the city. So what could we do? We could sit with them on a regular basis along with other departments in city government and talk about what's going on. So currently, as a result of that, and that's very simplified, we have 4 boards in each of the city's police districts that are made up of all of those people. And what we do is we collect information and we try to make determinations. And that's all the information possible, from trash to homicides. And we take a look at it. We actually have a website where you can go onto our website. It's camdendccb.org. And you can go on and submit any issue that you want to. And we take a look at it because any issue that you submit is actually mapped. So we have a picture of it. Any issue you submit is automatically sent to the agency that's responsible for addressing it. So most recently, one of the examples I can give you is we had a drug set in the city of Camden. And so people were anonymously submitting information, because it's all anonymous, onto our website. It's automatically emailed as soon as it's submitted to the chief of police, his command staff, people in the prosecutor's office, people in the state police, people in federal agencies. And they're able to go out and actually go to the drug set and break it up and do whatever it is required to do to eradicate the problem. But what we do as a group is we take a look at all of those things, and is there anything that we can be doing to actually rectify the problem? And one of the things, and Sean sort of touched on this, one of the real missions of the boards is actually for everybody to roll up their sleeves and to collaborate, and that's why the word collaboration is in the title, together to try to find a solution. So the idea is that we all have some responsibility here. Before we had boards, I would often go into meetings and I would see people coming that were in charge of doing whatever it was, whether it was to clean up the trash, to break up the drug set, to stop the next homicide, and they would write down on their pads and they would, you know, maybe come back and tell you what the results are, maybe not. The community often would sit there and just point to the officials that came into the room and say to them, well, what are you doing about this? What I found is that each one of us has some kind of a responsibility. If we're a community member, we have a civic responsibility. If we're a parent, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to each other as community members. So first and foremost, we change that finger pointing. And secondly, we concentrate on solutions. Because identifying the problems, not that we don't, we know what they are for the most part, going over it and over it again, is not something that we spend an inordinate amount of time on. We do collect data.
I have a question, just because I wanted your comments to be under 10 minutes so I can put it on YouTube.
Okay.
And I'm almost at 8. So just a quick question. I'm going to turn the video camera off. Why did you become a lawyer?
I became a lawyer because I love to advocate for people.
And are you confident that you made the right decision?
I'm confident I made the right decision. The only thing I would say is, for me personally, that I felt that litigating or being an attorney and doing it on a case-by-case basis, I didn't feel like I could have the same impact that I could doing what I do right now. I mean, oftentimes, and I use my degree every day, so going to law school actually really is not only about practicing law necessarily, but it's an education that provides you with a foundation for so many things. For instance, when we tackle issues, we have a series of subcommittees on the district collaborative boards, and one of them is the legislative committee. Because quite often people will say to us, well, you know, you arrested a bunch of people, they'll say to law enforcement, but they were all out the next day. And that's because there's a statute that has a bail that allows them to get out, or there's some other kind of provision that's actually not strict enough, or maybe it's too strict. But whatever the case may be, oftentimes we tackle it from the legislative angle. So we meet with assemblymen and senators, and we work on proposing bills with them. We most recently had an ATV campaign. I don't know if anybody saw that. But a lot of people in the city were saying that they were tired of all-terrain vehicles being all over the place. So we tackled it from the angle, of course, of enforcing the ordinance in the city and making sure that we are confiscating as many of the ATVs as we could. Getting the message out there that we were not going to have any tolerance for it, so we got the community involved in making sure that they were passing that message and that they were giving us information so we could in fact confiscate it. But we also researched the law and found that the ordinance in Camden City, that the maximum